This webinar provides illustrative information with respect to the subject matter covered and does not represent an official opinion or position of the Black Business and Professional Association. The BBPA makes no representations, warranties, or guarantees as to assume no responsibility for the content or application of the material contained herein, and especially disclaim all liability for any damages arising out of the use or reference to or lines on such material.
Excuse me. Can I get some water and a little bit more coffee?
Good morning, everyone, and a warm welcome to the BBPA's Community Space for Financial Literacy. I'm Chanel Smith, and I'm absolutely delighted to be your host for the next couple of weeks. Before we dive into this exciting journey, allow me to share a little bit more about myself. I've spent several years working in the financial industry and studying finance. I am the founder and executive director of TSK Wealth Planners, a nonprofit designed to educate underserved and marginalized communities on financial and economic literacy. My journey in this field has led me to this wonderful opportunity to facilitate this financial literacy program with all of you. Over the next 9 weeks, we will be exploring the world of credit and credit rebuilding, and I couldn't be more thrilled to have you all here. It's a subject that can sometimes feel complex, but together we will break it down into manageable and actionable steps. Today, we have the privilege of hearing from Shaquille Shaq Hall, who is an expert and an advocate in his field, a passionate advocate for financial literacy. Shaquille Hall, is a mortgage professional and entrepreneur with a wealth of knowledge and experience in the financial industry. He is the founder of Hall Real Estate Investments, providing investment solutions through investing, acquiring, renovating real estate, enabling clients to achieve their financial goals and earn passive income. With almost a decade of experience in the financial industry and over 15 million in transactions, Shaq has helped hundreds of people secure home loans, registered investments, retirement funds, and budget plans. He's not just a financial expert, he is also a community leader and actively involved in nonprofit organizations advocating for financial literacy and the power to build credit and wealth. Thank you, Shaq, for sharing your incredible expertise with our community. With you guiding us, we're in capable hands, exploring credit and financial empowerment over the next few weeks. Are you ready, everyone? Let's get started. Hey, Shaq.
I just realized I was talking on mute. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How's everybody doing? Thank you so much, Chanel. Thank you, BBPA. Another Saturday. We're just saying 9 weeks has comes back so fast. We're at 7th week, so we got a few more sessions left. So today is number 7, so 2 more after this one. I'm very excited to talk about today's topic and continuing the conversation. So today's not a presentation. This is the first time you joining on. It's not a presentation. It's more of a conversation. And we are going to have some feedback from the chats. So if you guys are ready to go, if you guys can hear me and see me clearly, and you're ready to learn on a Saturday morning, I just want you to type some 1s in the chat box or your favorite number, if you can, just so I know you guys are awake. It makes this a lot more fun. And I appreciate every single one of you guys for jumping on. Saturday morning, you guys could be doing anything, but you decided to tune in, listen in on a webinar, and participate and learn and grow, essentially, right? That's what we're all here to do. So let me just take a look at the chat box, see if you guys are up. Perfect. I'm seeing some 100s, some 1s, some 44444s. Love it. I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. So again, this whole segment here, we are talking about credit, and it's a community space talking about financial literacy, which I'm very passionate in talking about. And I think it's very relevant that we have these type of conversations, because I don't know about everybody on this call, but for me, these were not conversations I had when I was in school or growing up at a dinner table. It was as I educated myself, as I, became an entrepreneur and learned the hard knocks of life, I started to dig deep and learn about financial literacy and provide solutions for not only myself, but for my clients as well. So very passionate topic. Today, specifically, we're going to be talking about long-term credit management, right? And we're going to be talking about why it's very important for long-term credit management and essentially its effectiveness of your financial well-being long-term. So today we're going to be exploring techniques maintaining a healthy credit profile. We're going to talk about how to monitor your credit reports. And lastly, we're going to talk about how to address errors if you do find it on your credit report. And I think these are valuable topics and points that is, again, can help you long term, but more importantly, shift where you currently are right now. Let's just say if you have bad credit or, you never even had the knowledge to even know how to pull a report, you're going to learn the basics of how to get that started and take care of your credit report and understand what that report entails. Okay. So again, long term, the effectiveness of credit and how it can have tap into your financial well-being. Okay, so first topic is techniques maintaining about healthy credit profile. So we always start this off with a question, and hopefully you can get a lot of responses to start off. But when it comes to techniques and maintaining a healthy credit profile, where we're talking about your credit report or in general your credit score and your overall financial well-being. So in terms of techniques now, what are some strategies that you currently may have used or are maintaining your credit profile? So what are some strategies you currently use right now to maintain your credit health and your credit profile? So again, your credit profile is your credit score, your credit report, and your overall financial well-being. So what are some strategies? And I'll start off and hopefully we can get some feedbacks. If you have a comment or if you want to participate, feel free to raise your hand. We can unmute your mic and we can hear from you, or type in the chat box, and we will definitely share collectively the responses that we're going to get. But I can start off. So some strategies I use to keep it very simple, especially when it comes to credit report to maintain. One of the strategies I use is making sure I have a calendar and I pay my bills on time. As simple as it may sound, what's simple to do is also simple not to do. So that helps me maintain my credit profile. And that's a key strategy, is making sure I have my calendar, everything is synced, I have my due dates of specific expenses and bills on my calendar that pop up to make sure I pay my bills on time. What are some strategies or key techniques that some of you guys may have used to help maintain a strong or healthy credit profile? I'm interested to hear from everybody in the audience today.
O'Neill's already told us he limits the amount of hard inquiries. So that's good at maintenance too, something to avoid.
Sorry, what was the name of that person?
That was O'Neill.
O'Neill, perfect. Yeah, so limiting inquiries and hard checks on your credit report. Why is that important, right? The more hard checks that you have, the more it affects your credit score specifically, and the more lenders are going to look at your credit profile as somebody who's overextended themselves looking for credit or looking for extended credit lines. So the more inquiries you have is actually worse. So if you want to limit your hard inquiries, it's definitely going to help you maintain a good credit score. And we talked about it in previous sessions as well. You definitely want to limit your inquiries to below, if you can, below 12 to 10 in a year, because once you get over that 10 mark, the more you're going to be looking at somebody that's more active, looking for credit, and it does affect your credit score. There's also these lenders and creditors are going to judge you a little bit more and scrutinize your profile a bit. So great point in O'Neill. Anybody else?
Yeah. JC said he keeps his utilization below 30%. And Andrew said similar, make sure his credit card balances are well below the limit prior to the statement date. Similar.
Yeah. Perfect. So statement date, utilization. Utilization, that big U word when it comes to credit report, is very important. It's actually 35%, 35% factor that affects your credit score the most. That and paying your bills on time. Utilization is very, very important. And again, similar to what I mentioned as well too at the beginning, having your dates and your payment dates and your due dates coincide with either your calendar or just being aware of it. So you're paying your bills on time. Again, major factor in actually affecting your credit score itself. So great feedback so far. Was there anything else, Chanel?
Yeah, we've got I paid off before the due date and within the month down to the limit within the month. So I'm assuming that's some sort of strategy of getting down below 30% before the due date or before your interest-free period ends.
Amazing. Yeah, even making multiple payments on a credit card or a credit line before its due date, that helps as well. Even if it's like small portions of it before the actual due date. And it's very important to understand the due date versus the actual reported date as well. So once you understand, and we're going to talk about it very next in a couple points, but once you understand how to pull your credit report, you'll see dates of when the creditors actually report to the credit bureaus. And it's good to understand when they report. And then more importantly, it's good to understand when your actual bills are due because you can make your payments before that time. And as we mentioned before, you always want to make sure you can chunk away at your debt and never just pay the minimum because you'll be stuck paying interest forever. And if you look at the fine print on some of your credit cards, you'll see exactly how long it'll take for you to pay off your credit card or high interest debt within their amortization periods or just by paying the minimum credit or the minimum payment amount. So great tips. So paying your bills on time, managing credit utilization, the big utilization. For those that don't know what utilization is, if you have a credit product, let's just say a line of credit of $1,000 to keep it very simple, and you owe about 900, that is about 90% utilization. The goal is to keep your utilization at that magic number of 30%. If you can aim to even get lower, around 20, even better. But 30 to 40% is kind of max of what you should be utilizing in a month. Because that shows that you can manage your credit lines responsibly. So utilization is essentially how much you're utilizing of your actual limit itself. So great. Avoid excessive debt. That's another point as well too, making sure you're avoiding excessive debt because sometimes these debt can snowball and it become too hard to manage. So try to avoid excessive debt and spending too much on credit lines because sometimes it's if you don't have the capital to pay it and you're carrying it over, you're paying something called interest so that can accumulate and be very difficult to combat because it does compound. And I talked about it before, compound interest is one of the most powerful things. It's Albert Einstein talked about it. It's the eighth wonder of the world. So understand the power of it, of not only paying interest compoundedly, but learning how to earn that as well too is another powerful component that can help you tremendously. But just keep in mind, some of your credit lines are compounded. So yeah, interest is earning interest on the other interest, and sometimes it becomes difficult if you are racking up too much debt. So just be responsible as the last point of this topic. Be responsible with your credit cards. Credit cards are usually the highest of credit lines that you're going to get in terms of interest rates. So be responsible with that and any other trade lines that you may have. Great. All right, so let's continue the conversation. Let's go on to the next point. And we talked about techniques a bit about managing a healthy credit profile. Now we're going to be talking about how to actually understand your credit report. And again, this is something that we talked about in previous weeks, but it's very important that we talk about it again and constantly talk about these things because repetition becomes will allow you to understand a little bit better. These are very key factors of understanding why it's important to not only have your credit report, but understand why it's important to understand your score. So your credit score is a 3-digit number that range anywhere between 300 to 900. And you want to know that score because the creditors are going to look at that score. And it's good to have anywhere between 650 and above. That is good. If you're over 700, The banks, the creditors, they really like that. Oftentimes they're going to give you offers to extend credit lines and give you other credit products as well too. So how do you monitor your credit? How do you understand your credit score and your reports? And I'm going to also give you different sources as well too of how you can pull up your credit. Um, but I have a question for you guys as well too. Another question. Uh, how often are you guys checking your credit reports? Are you guys checking it at all? I would love to hear in the chat box if somebody wants to unmute their mic of different ways they're checking their credit reports and how often they do it. Um, and if you're not, you can always be honest as well too and say, I don't even check it at all. I don't even know where I stand. I have no clue. But let us know, how often are you guys checking your credit reports and score?
You've
And I want to know
actually,
why.
yeah, Shaq, you've got some questions here too about credit.
Okay.
From your previous segment there, you have a question: is it better to pay the credit balance in full or just pay the minimum to attempt to increase my credit score? And then also, how do you know when a creditor reports to the credit bureau?
Okay, let's start with the first one.
Yeah.
So paying in full rather than minimum credit. Um, you definitely always want to pay more than the minimum. Never pay this just the minimum. In my personal opinion, and from my experience, it does nothing for you just by paying the minimum. The only person you're making happy when you're paying the minimum is whoever you're paying, whether it be the TDs, the Scotiabanks, whatever institution, because they make money on the interest, right? So you always want to pay more than the minimum, 1,000%. It helps your credit um, report. And if you want to leave a balance, as we mentioned before, you can leave a small balance or try to keep that utilization very, very low. That will help increase your credit as well, just making your payment. So to answer your question, I rather pay in full, but there's sometimes in different, it all depends on your situation, but there's sometimes you may not be able to pay the bill in full. So you can leave a small balance, and trust me, that will still help increase your credit as well. So if you're making your payments, if you're utilizing a credit card or any trade line and you're making payments towards it at any given point, as long as it's more than the minimum, it will tremendously help your credit. And then the second question, I believe, was how do you check when the report date or when they report? So some statements on your credit cards or lines of credits will actually show you in fine writing. Others will not show at all. So that's where it comes down to our next points that we're going to be talking about. Actually pulling your credit reports, and you'll be able to see, especially the detailed ones, if you're pulling directly from the bureau reports of when they report on your credit to the credit bureaus. So answer your questions on your actual direct credit your credit statements or directly through your credit bureau reports.
And to build on what you were saying earlier, Shaq, I don't know, I don't know if you answered the question or not. Multiple payments can be good. So like if your
Yeah,
minimum payment is taken care of, and during your cycle, you're able to make like two payments as opposed to just one or two or three payments, that is
yeah,
also a positive factor as well, just building on that. And then you have
yeah.
a question again, what about the reports you can access via your bank account? Are they reliable? Are they accurate?
Yeah. So what's beautiful, as you guys are mentioning, some of you guys have online banking. We never had this before. I'd say in the last, what is it, like 5 years ish, we started to see online banking, banks now partnering with credit bureau reports and now educating you guys and having their clients and consumers with access to pull their reports via online banking or even through the application that they have. So how accurate are they? They're pretty much accurate because they're using the two top credit bureaus in Canada, which is Equifax and TransUnion, and it's directly from them. So it's they're using a third party app on their server that connects to either Equifax or TransUnion, and it's pretty accurate for the most part. And you'll see a difference, a discrepancy between the two credit bureaus. All that is different institutions are reporting on either both or one of the credit bureaus. I do find that Equifax is a little bit better because it's typically the lower one, and more institutions actually report to Equifax than TransUnion here in Canada. There's also a third credit bureau called Experian. We don't really use it too much here in Canada, but it's more in the States. All right. Any other
JC
questions?
said,
If not, go ahead.
sorry, Shaq. JC made a comment. He said he likes Borrowell. I think Borrowell's a good, it's like a Credit Karma, like it's a good channel. But still the two major credit bureaus are gonna be Equifax and fill me in here, Shaq.
TransUnion.
TransUnion. There you go. Credit Karma
Got you.
uses TransUnion, and I think Borrowell uses Equifax, but those are still the two
Yeah,
major subsidiaries. Yeah.
that's correct. 100%. So did anybody actually answer my question that I asked? How often you guys check your credit scores or credit reports?
Almost daily for me.
Daily. Wow. You're better than
I'm on
me.
my credit. Yeah, I'm on my almost daily. I use the notifications, like when they send me the tips and advice, things you could do better, almost daily, every few months. And Spence says every few months.
Every few months. That's good. Anybody else? How often you guys check your credit report or credit
Yeah.
scores?
O'Neill says every few months. JC tapped in. He said like every other month or once a month, maybe. It's good for us young people to, like he's saying, it's good for us young people to get in the habit of it. A lady from the bank taught him.
100%.
Yeah.
Shout out to that
Andrew,
lady at the bank.
3 to 4 months. Yeah, show her out.
No,
three to four
100%.
months.
Like,
Yeah.
well, no matter what age you are, whether you're young, whether you're old, but obviously when you're younger, it's better because you're creating habits earlier, which is great, and you're aware. But 1,000%, no matter how old or how young you are on this call, you should be checking your credit reports very frequently. I don't know about every day, but definitely once a month, 1,000%, you should be checking once a month. And the beauty of it, as Chanel has mentioned, some of these third-party apps, some of these services that they have, they give you notifications. You're able to pull it up. They'll send it to your email just to let you know your credit has either increased, decreased, where you stand, if there's an inquiry on your file. It's a bunch of different services for that. So thank you guys for the feedback. A lot of you guys are seeing every month or every other month or every 2 months or every season. All right, good. As long as you're checking, in my opinion, you're doing the right thing. If you're not checking, let this be a wake-up call today. Constantly check your credit report at least once a month, because in order to improve your credit, your financial health, you need to reach that. You need to know that three-digit number of where you, because I mentioned it prior, and this has always been a theme. Your credit report is like your report card after you graduate elementary school, right? It's your life's report card. It's how creditors are going to judge you. It's how lenders are going to judge you. And it's very important that you maintain it at least at that level of 650 or higher. And then again, if you can keep it over 700, you're on the green light when it comes to lenders, banks. You can definitely qualify for some prime lending at cheaper interest rates that ultimately will save you thousands of dollars through your lifetime easily. So great. I'm glad that you guys are checking, and it looks like I'm checking the chats now. It looks like a majority of you guys are responding. I appreciate the responses so far. Keep them coming. Yeah, very, very important to check your credit score, credit score and report. And the reason why, because we're in an environment, especially around this time, Christmas time, where there's a lot of fraud that happens. And this is from my experience working in the institutions. This is like high fraud season around Christmas time. Um, there's always inaccuracies, and not always, but there tends to be inaccuracies on your credit report. So you need to understand if there's something that's wrong. Again, if there's something that's wrong on there, we're going to show you, or we're going to talk about today about how you can dispute that, how you can, get some of that stuff removed off of your credit if there's inaccuracies on there. But another thing too that's been on the rise, especially in the last decade, is identity theft, right? People stealing your name, or maybe you have a popular name, right? And maybe something's been put on your report that's not you. You know what I mean? Like there's that stuff exists a lot, and you'll be surprised how often that is a case or a scenario that happens, right? So you want to make sure you're watching your report to see if there's any inaccuracies, to see if you've been a victim of identity theft, to see if there's any fraud that happens on your report. You know what I mean? Very, 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 very important, especially towards the end of the calendar year. I feel like it's a great time, a very timely conversation that we're having today to make sure that you guys are all checking your reports and understanding your credit worthiness, right? For me, when I'm looking at my credit report personally, and through clients as well too, is this a time when I can manage, am I managing my credit properly, where I can have additional debt? Can I manage additional credit lines? Can I get another mortgage, purchase another property? I'm looking and reviewing my report because it's very important. You need to know this before you actually sit down and submit an application, because this will increase your likeliness of getting that loan, that line of credit, that credit card, that mortgage that you want to get if you are somebody looking to make another big purchase. Okay, very important to understand your credit worthiness, and then identify areas where you can improve. Right, you're going to see, especially if you go directly to the credit bureau companies, and if you go directly to Equifax or TransUnion, and I'll drop some links too, so you guys can visit yourself. They are free to download. They are free to get your reports. But when you go through them, you're going to see gaps of where you can improve. Excuse me, where you can improve on certain areas, whether it be reducing some of your debt, whether it be improving on making your payments on time. All of that is going to be seen on your credit bureau reports. So very important to detect your inaccuracies, understanding your credit worthiness, identify areas of improvement. This is why it's important to check your credit report and your score, and ultimately is going to help you save on interest by getting the lowest rates possible when you're applying for new credits products. So how do you obtain it? Some of you guys already jumped the gun and mentioned some great resources so far. Again, let me see if I can get some links for you guys. You can go directly to Equifax or TransUnion. Let me just pull it up here real quick. There's a specific link, because sometimes it may prompt you to pay. You don't have to pay, it's free. If you do pay, they're going to be giving you credit monitoring services, meaning that they're going to give you your reports, and they're going to monitor for you, and they're going to give you either a text message, call, notification if there's any identity theft or anything inaccurate, or any new products or trade lines. They're going to just confirm that it's you as well. But I'm going to give you the free link here. That is going to allow you to check your credit reports. Let me just find it here. Perfect. Okay. Got it. I'm going to drop it in the chat box. And TransUnion one is very simple as well too. It's just transunion.com. So that one's Equifax. Did I send it? Okay, perfect. Send it to everybody. Equifax. Some of you guys are already naming your favorite ones. Chanel mentioned Credit Karma, Borrowwell. I'll drop a link for Borrowwell as well too. Borrowwell is one of my favorite third-party apps that uses Equifax. I love Borrowwell. I think it's a great service that they give you different tips, tricks, and more importantly, they send it to your email. So I just sent two links. One is for Equifax directly. The other one is for Borrowwell. TransUnion, I'll give you TransUnion as well. TransUnion is just transunion.ca, I believe. TransUnion. Yeah, transunion.ca.
Yeah. And most of these
And
have
those,
apps too, right?
oops, I just dropped Borrow twice. Most of these have apps. I believe the third
Yeah.
parties 1,000% have apps, but the Equifax or TransUnion, from my knowledge, I don't believe they have apps. You have to go directly on their websites
You have to go
or on your
online.
mobile
Yeah.
device. Yeah, or on your mobile device and go through your web browser, and you'll be able to obtain your reports from Equifax or TransUnion. There's another one I used to use a lot, especially when I was investing and trading with cryptocurrency. But this one is really good as well too. That monitors your credit. It's called Mogul Finance. It's a Canadian company. They're also on the stock market, publicly traded. Another great service that as well too, that you guys can utilize, that's going to help you with your credit, see where you stand, give you different reward bonuses, amazing things that are going to help you. So they make it fun. I understand some of these topics are not comfortable to talk about in terms of credit, in terms of financial literacy, but you can make it fun. And some of these services, they give you different rewards for even like monitoring and keeping your credit utilization low or adding additional credit product. They make it fun and they educate you as well too. So not only for yourselves, but for your children, make sure you're teaching them this as well. Because I promise you, well, now they probably changed a little bit, but in the education system, they don't teach about credit. They don't teach about utilization, what it means to have debt, and how to manage it responsibly, and some of the conversation that we're having today. So this is why it's very important that we're talking about these things. And I love the feedback so far in the chat box, talking about different tips and tricks that you guys are all utilizing when it comes to your credit reports. So those are some links that I have. Another one too, shout out to Fari Bailey as well, to Hutsy Financial. That's another one that's up and coming. And they're doing some phenomenal things of showing you how to improve your credit through debit purchases. And this is the first ever service that allows you to increase your credit through debit purchases. Payment, I think they have cash advance as well too. And they're also going to, I think, launching the monitor service as well. So Hutsy Financial is another one. I can drop a link for that as well. If you guys tune in I think the last session in 2 weeks, Tafari be wrapping up this whole segment as well, and touching about different ways you can obtain financing. So I think on the business side, but that's going to be another powerful session at the end of our 9-week program here. I have a link here. Give me 1 second. I just want to equip you guys with as many resources as possible. Okay, perfect. It's on here. Boom.
JC said, it says that the average, so JC is talking about the average credit score in Ontario, Canada, 761. I don't know, JC, how credible or accurate that information is. We know that to be like maybe high sixes. I can attach some info. I don't know about 760.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. If that's the average credit score in Canada, we're doing tremendous. That's all I got to say. But from my experience of dealing with mortgages, of my banking experience, of seeing, doing applications, and at this point probably thousands now. Yeah, the average credit score is definitely not 761.
No.
That would be great for us here in Canada. It's definitely more closer to that 650 range, or low 600s
It's high
in my
six.
opinion.
Yeah, high six. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and especially now, we are going through some economic times where people are utilizing their credit a little bit more. So you're taking a hit, and it's okay, because your credit journey, it's a fun ride. You're gonna have your ups, you're gonna have your downs, but when you understand and you have that literacy, that knowledge, you can increase your credit score really, really quickly. And vice versa. If you're not knowledgeable, you can and you're utilizing, or you're going through a tough time in life in general, and you lose a lot of credit, you can really drop very quickly as well too. So it is a roller coaster. But I think the overall topic that we're talking about today is being educated, and growing together, right? You guys are all providing different tips and tricks. I'm providing resources for you guys as well too, with different links that can help you guys tremendously. So Equifax, TransUnion directly, Experian in the States, and these are services that you can use. Borrowwell, Credit Karma, Mogul Finance, Hutsy Financial, bunch of different resources and services. And then some of your institutions, a lot of you guys have mentioned as well. I believe Scotia, I have a lot of institutions. So Scotia, BMO, I believe RBC, but I know Scotia and BMO for sure, they have it directly on their mobile apps and on their phone as well, where you can check your credit reports directly off of their mobile application. So great, 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 great access. And in this day and age, nobody has any excuse not to know where they stand. So definitely monitor and check your credit. And if it's in shambles, it's okay. We've all been there. It's a journey. But it's coming to conversations like this. It's learning and growing, and to do better, right? So great. Any other feedback, Chanel, before we go further?
I think we can carry on. We got to most of the comments. As you guys know, Shaq dropped some links in the chat, so try to copy those before the call is over. You did have an earlier comment about how you can use credit to obtain passive income, or to make passive income. And that question was asked by O'Neill. He said, any new ideas for using credit to gain passive income outside of the home or business?
You have to be careful what I say, because
I
not
know
everybody
that's
can
what
utilize
that's yeah.
not everybody can utilize credit the right way, because it can actually put you
Yeah,
like in a further worse situation than it is
yeah.
to advance you when it comes to earning passive income through credit. But the overall, unlike what I can say is understand what credit products you're going to be taking, whether it be a line of credit, whether it be a mortgage, whether it be a credit card, and utilize it properly. Meaning that understand, okay, you're going to be paying interest. Let's just say, I don't know, at Prime. Prime right now is 7.20. If you're able to utilize that and make more on that capital, because it's money that you don't own, you're borrowing it. And it's typically because of leverage, either because of your credit score, either because of your income, or because you have some type of collateral, which would be either be a house or even physical cash, like having as collateral. If you're borrowing at a 7.2 and you're able to make, let's just say 14%, then you're netting seven, whatever percent, that difference, that delta, you'll be making money off of. So whatever you're investing in, wherever you're putting your money, and you're getting that delta and it's passive, then you can be earning money off of credit if used responsibly. Right. So
I wanted us
in
to
terms of
yeah.
tips, in terms of like different like strategies or ways to make income, we did talk about it in previous ones. I believe and there's a one more session talking about different ways you can make income. It's just using your credit to make income essentially.
Yeah. Just to build on that too, a really, really, really important aspect to remember, like a lot of institutions as well. So credit will get you debt. So it gives you like the ability to leverage, but a lot of institutions make sure they make it really clear to you that when borrowing money or when taking out debt, that you're not using that money to make another investment. Obviously, people do it if they know how to do it, but just to build on what Shaq was saying, you want to make sure you have a good like substantial knowledge on what you're doing. You want to make sure you're in the green and you understand like debt leveraging, and that's a little bit more financial structuring than it is just credit because it's risk. So that's yeah, I think that's why we're just cautious on that topic.
1,000%. Yeah, you just
Yeah.
always want to be careful when taking debt to invest or to put it into something that can earn passive income. But
Yeah.
essentially, if you're a person that understands how the credit system works, you're monitoring your credit, you can manage it properly, you can get a lot of money through the leverage, as you mentioned before. And then if push positioned in the right way in passive income opportunities, you can be making a good delta. And honestly, the way how our economy is set up, countries as well too, it's based off the debt system. So it's really understanding that everybody's in debt. It's how do you utilize the debt properly, responsibly to earn you some income passively.
Yes. I think that's all of our comments so far. We've got something right now. Would it be wise to start a business with bad credit? That's a
So
that's a loaded one. It's
yeah, yeah.
a
So
good
starting a
question.
business with bad credit, I've seen all the time.
Yeah.
It's harder because you're running the race with behind in a sense, because if you have bad credit, there's nothing, you're not going to get any capital to start a business, and businesses are very expensive, right? The cheapest business that I've ever ran was maybe $10,000 at minimum, but they're expensive. So if you have good credit, it's easier to build that business. Businesses do require a lot of capital, especially to get it off the ground. And as you may know or you may not know, most businesses are unsuccessful or fail within the first, 3 to 5 year mark, right? So because it's capital intensive. So if you have bad credit, one of the ways that you can increase or help yourself improve your credit in a sense is on the corporate side by creating a corporation. Because, as we mentioned prior to briefly, having a corporation, it's like its own baby, it's its own entity. So you can kind of start from scratch. But if you have no personal leverage, because a lot of the businesses, especially if you're going to a bank and you're going to ask for credit lines to grow your business, you're gonna have to be a personal guarantee for that business for at least the first 2 years, right? Until your business is actually generating income consistently. So to answer your question, very difficult. I wouldn't advise somebody to start a business if they have bad credit. fix your personal before you start a business, but you can start over fresh by having a corporation.
And that was your last one.
Like that question.
That question came
Right.
from Irene.
Irene, love it. Thank you, Irene.
Yeah.
Love that question. Okay, perfect. Let's continue. We got a couple more points to go, but keep the feedback coming, keep the questions. It makes these conversations fun, and I'm pretty sure everybody on this call is learning. If you're learning something right now, just drop some 8s in the chats. If you're having fun on the conversation with us and you're learning and you're getting some value, just drop some 8s in the chat box. Just checking if you guys are still awake, checking the temperature in the room as we go along. And it's tough because I can't really see anybody. And sometimes I feel like I'm talking to myself, but great. I'm getting some comments in chat. Great. So you guys are getting value. I love it. I love it. Great.
I have like
And I'm
2
assuming
devices going so I could see the chat and be in the conversation as well. Yeah.
good. All right. I'm in between screens, so sometimes I don't see the chats, but it's great to have you as well too. Last week I was struggling without my co-host, so thank you, Chanel, for
I'm so
facilitating
sorry, guys.
and doing and helping out. It definitely makes this a lot easier.
Yeah. Everyone's awake.
So
Yeah, let's go.
So let's continue. Let's continue the conversation, guys. So we talked about different techniques of a healthy credit profile. We talked about monitoring your credit reports and how to actually obtain it. Now, when you have the actual credit report itself, what do you do with it when you encounter an error? So when you encounter an error, it's and especially with credit Equifax or TransUnion, on there is a button where it says dispute, or let me see exactly what it says here. Yes, credit assistance or credit support. I know TransUnion has that, Equifax has that. If you want to dispute with credit report assistance, whether you're being a victim of fraud or something inaccurate, it's very important that you address it as quick as possible because you want to make sure your credit reports are accurate because, again, it is affecting you. It is your report card. You want to make sure your report card is accurate. Your teachers or creditors are reporting things that are accurate for you because the worst thing that you could possibly see on the report is inaccuracies that it's affecting your credit scores negatively. So that's why it's important not only to pull the report, but also see for the inaccuracy. And how you handle it is, again, going through step by step of the information of how to dispute. And typically, they're both different. One of them will ask you to actually send a letter and proof of the inaccuracy, some type of evidence that this wasn't you, or that you made your bill payment on time, that it was missed, or that your institution didn't report it on time. Whatever the case may be, you either have to do it via letter or through the actual credit bureau itself, where you're submitting a dispute or yeah, it's usually a dispute portal where the message of what is inaccurate on your report. But I'm interested to hear in the chat box of anybody, and feel free. I don't think we had anybody today that unmuted their mic. Unmute your mic and let us know of any errors that you've encountered and how you handled it. So I'm interested to hear from you guys. What are some errors that you've encountered and how you handled it? And I'm going to talk about some points after I get some more feedback. But Chanel, let me know if anybody comments, if there's any hands that's raised regarding any errors and how they handled them. I want to hear some stories. I want to hear some feedback from the audience.
So Andrew, right now, while everyone taps in with their answer to that, if they've ever had to dispute or saw anything they needed to dispute on their credit report, Andrew says, is it true that even if an item is not on the report that you see, it is still available to the creditor to see? So like essentially you're asking if there are things that if you go to borrow money, are there things the creditor or the lender can see that you can't see when you look at your credit report? That's his question.
Yeah, Andrew, I'm going to draw you out a bit. If you don't mind, unmute your mic and kind of elaborate that question a little bit more.
And let us know who you are, what you do, and elaborate on that question for us, Andrew.
All right, Gary, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. It's Andrew DeFore. I was just wondering because I know these financial institutions are pulling data all the time, and they've got a wealth of data regardless of whatever on a monthly basis. So my question is, even though there was an error on your credit report, you have it taken off. Does the creditor still see that information? It may not be in the visible part from my side, but do they still see what's on the credit report, all the data on the credit report?
So from a high level, yes, but from a basic level, no. So what do I mean by that? So if something has been taken off your credit report, right, there may be a comment, and I can see this because I pull credit reports often, and the credit report that we pull on the financial side is we get all the credit score reports, we get a FICO score, and we get all the comments, inquiries, and trade lines. So if something has been removed and it's been reported, it's usually a comment that you can see that there was a dispute or something was resolved, and it's usually in the notes of the credit report. But in terms of the actual trade line or the inaccuracy that was removed, once it's removed, right? Yes, they have all the data, and it's because they're paying for it. These institutions are paying these credit bureaus on a monthly and annual basis, where they're able to track that data, and they have it directly embedded into their softwares as well.
Okay.
So once it's been removed, to answer your question, they don't really see it. The most they'll probably will see was the comment.
Because I did have a situation where there was one negative item on a TransUnion report, which I did a dispute. Then it was deleted on the TransUnion report, but then it was replicated on the Equifax report and then deleted subsequently a month later. And
Yeah.
that was kind of odd. Why would that happen?
Yeah, because again, they're two different credit bureau reports.
Mhm.
And I'm glad that you asked this question. I'm glad that you
Yeah.
elaborated a bit further, because again, people on this call are listening, they're going to learn as well. But they're two different reports. So if there's a dispute on one and inaccuracy on one credit bureau, and it's on the other one as well too, you have to dispute it on both.
Both. Yeah.
That's one of
Yeah.
the things I want everybody to understand. So you have to dispute on both. And sometimes, again, the speed is a bit different. But if there's any inaccuracy, just keep this number in mind, guys. They have to rectify it within 30 days. And if they don't, you can always follow up and let them know, like, what's going on. This is not inaccurate. This is inaccurate. This has to be removed. But usually within 30 days, they have to respond. And if you can prove that this is not you, if there's an inaccuracy, again, by law, they have to remove it.
Okay,
So,
great.
go ahead.
Yeah, without adding too much complexity. So the situation was, it was on the TransUnion report, but it was
Yeah.
not on the Equifax report.
Yeah.
They did the dispute on TransUnion. It was taken off TransUnion, and then the creditor turned around and put it on Equifax, and then deleted it from Equifax a month later. So I was just confusing how that happens and why that would happen.
So it sounds like, go ahead, Chanel.
No, you get, yeah, no. So just to build on what Shaq was saying as well, but to more clearly answer your question, the two credit bureaus are independent of each other, but the information still has to, like across the board, it has to still exist. So you could have realized this on your TransUnion first because it was realized through TransUnion first, and then you were able to dispute and get rid of it. But then the updates of the information lagged to Equifax. So they still have to, it's kind of like what Shaq said, nothing becomes invisible. It still has to appear and then disappear. So they've still got to say, okay, we're catching up. We've now got this information. We get that it's been disputed and then expunged, but it still has to exist because it's still a part of your credit history. Yeah.
And Andrew, it does sound like your creditor decided to, once it got disputed from one credit bureau, they decided to report on another one. And it now it sounds like a creditor problem. So not so much the credit bureau problem, is your creditor that's doing it. So that's very, very important as well too. These credit bureau, the creditors kind of have that power to decide where they want to report as well. So that's what it sounds like as well. So hopefully we provide you with some feedback regarding that. Did that sum up your question?
Yes, thank you. It gives me
answer it at least.
We've got more kicking here before you move on. So Emika's next. She said, hello. I noticed some hard checks on my credit that I didn't authorize. and this has impacted my score. What can I do? Emeka, do you want to come on the mic?
Yeah, is that the question? Like, do you want me to expatiate on that?
Yeah, I want you
Yeah,
to
sure.
expand. What? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, this was what happened. Like I had a side business, and then I wanted to buy a truck from the business side, and I used I remember I talked to an agent, a guy that does, if he could sort out the finances for me, because then the business was new, I didn't have history and all that. So I suspected he didn't ask me, and then I noticed lots of hard check on my credit, and like more than 7 or 8 of them. I'm like, what's going on here? Yeah, so that was my situation, and then I'm just trying to sort things out here. So what can I do?
Great.
So
I love the question.
mhm,
You wanna take it, Shannon?
go take it.
Okay.
Okay, so I would start by saying when you went to take out the truck, usually the hard inquiry. So if you consent to trying to get a vehicle, it can often not be one hard inquiry. So they might go around to different banks and it may appear like 4, 5, 6, several, maybe being a trucker, there's other options and lenders available. So several creditors might get checked within that check of you thinking that you're going to look for one vehicle. Is that kind of the case? I don't know. And then Shaq, you could build on that if there's more to the question.
Yeah, it sounds like you visited an agent or a broker, and
Mm-hmm.
essentially you have to
Yes.
be, and this is a great reminder for everybody in the call, because I'm a mortgage agent and broker myself, so right. So you have to be cognizant and read the agreement that you sign, because usually it's a consent form that allows them to pull your credit, and especially if you're dealing with somebody who's a broker, sometimes they may shop your file around to multiple different creditors. And it sounds like they did it because usually within 30 days it would show up as maybe one credit hard inquiry, but it sounds like I don't know how long the process was taking for your actual truck for it to be approved, but it sounded like it was getting declined, or multiple different lenders were checking it, and they're also reporting to the credit bureau as well too. So what you can do as a solution to their problem that happened with the 7 inquiries is either go back to the agent and ask where he submitted it, what are the lenders, and see if you can dispute it, because you didn't sign up for that. You didn't know it was going to get pulled so many times, because now it affected your credit. So you definitely want to be cognizant of where you're applying to, and just understand that if you are applying and looking for a car loan, a truck loan, even a mortgage, right? You're gonna get a hard check on your credit bureau report. So, but it shouldn't be that many. If you're seeing 7, see what you can do to fight against it, the inaccuracies regarding it, but more importantly, see what you sign, because again, it shouldn't be that many inquiries for just to get a truck loan. So it sounds like the agent probably like submitted it too many different places, and all those creditors did hard inquiries on your credit. So yeah.
Okay. The irony of it is that I did not sign anything with this guy. Someone just gave me his contact. I called him and I told him what I wanted to do. And then he just asked me for my name and some few things. In fact, I've never met him even up to now.
Yeah. So it sounds like, again, um, something that's not right, because they need your consent, especially in this day and age. There has to be some type of verbal consent or some type of signature on paper. So there's 2
There
things
was
that we
none.
can use in order to pull a credit report. Either verbal, you consented verbally, and hopefully he has a recorded call of that. If he doesn't, again, you can fight and dispute that and go directly to the credit bureaus, and get those removed. Okay, because again, that's illegal. He's not supposed to do that, or these creditors are not supposed to pull your credit without your consent, either verbally or in writing.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so next we have Denise. I know JC made a comment, not really a question. You're just saying, shaking his head. I don't agree with these institutions holding on to information that is irrelevant. So that was his comment. Thank you, JC. And Denise said, I haven't had to deal with disputing errors as yet, but my question is, how long does it typically take for a bank to report a mortgage as paid when it is switched to another financial institution?
Anywhere from 24 to 40, anywhere from 30 to 60 days. You should be updated on your credit bureau report. If not, go to that institution if you paid out your mortgage in full, and let them know to either report or discharge your mortgage or whatever you paid off. But usually about 60 days at most. It shouldn't be on your credit bureau report as not paid after 60 days if you paid it off completely.
Yeah. And
So
then
on average, these creditors, they usually report on a 29 to 31 day timeline of how often they report to these credit bureaus.
yeah, and
I
if
see a
you're,
hand up right now.
oh, is there really? I'm reading comments in the comment box. I need a third device. Let's see. I don't see a hand up. If someone's hand's up though, you can unmute your mic and interrupt. I don't see it.
Hi, good,
Denise said, awesome, thank you. Go ahead. Who are you and what do you do?
good morning. My name is Rose. My inquiry is in regards to the inquiries in related to a mortgage. So I was asking for refinancing a mortgage, and several inquiry was pulled, and it shows as hard inquiries. When I pushed back on that with the broker said, no, it's a soft pull. It's a hard pull just from him. And the lenders, the potential lenders are the ones who got to view it, and we're seeing who all of them view it. I accepted that until it started to affect other things. And so we called into Equifax, and Equifax said, well, yes, it is just one hard pull from the agent, and all of those are not technically counted. However, when you look at the report, it says hard inquiry to each and every one of the potential lender that looked at it. How do you fight that when Equifax is telling you, no, it's only one through the broker, yet still the report shows 10 lines of lenders that looked at it?
So when you do have the report from Equifax, I'm very familiar with Equifax. It won't show you which ones are hard and which ones are soft checks. So if Equifax is telling you that they're soft checks, then there should be soft checks. It shouldn't be affecting it. It's the hard pulls that are going to affect your credit score.
Right. So it has yes for what's hard. Excuse me.
Oh, so it shows you.
Excuse me. So it says yes for the hard, and it says no for soft pulls. However, all of the lenders who look at the file, it has BRK in front of it. So you're saying it's a broker access for them to look, that it doesn't count against the score. So it says that, but that's not what the report shows. And so when one of my my line of credit lender saw the report, when they pull a soft pull and saw the report, they reduced my line of credit because I had several hard pull. Equifax is saying, no, they're not hard pull, even though each line says yes, yes, yes. And between the mortgage person who I gave consent to, we called together on the phone, and they said the same thing, that it doesn't count as anything, yet still it is reported as a hard pull.
So this is where I would say now it needs to get disputed at that point, because if they're saying it's soft, but it's showing on your report that it's hard, then they have to rectify that. They have to change that from where it says hard on your report to soft pull, or it says yes where it says soft pull. So dispute it now. You have the conversations. It's now going through the disputed process. That's what I would do. If I was in your position, I'm just giving you my honest
And I
feedback.
did.
Now and
And
then
I
you
did.
submitted a dispute, and did they get back to you within the 30 days?
They did. They sent it to me saying that they're putting an inquirer in it, and if it comes back, if the broker doesn't respond, then they're going to put it back. And the problem with that is, technically, the broker did what he was supposed to do or was within his legal right to do. He was looking
Correct.
at lenders. The problem
Yeah.
is why Equifax is reporting it as a yes, even though they themselves is verbally telling us that no, it's not a hard pull. They're saying it doesn't count against the score, but the
Mhm.
line, each line of it says yes,
It
yes,
shows you.
yes to a
Yeah.
hard pull. And I
So
use Borrowell as well to use as just to check my report every
just
now
check.
and then.
Inquiry.
And
Mhm.
again, it's coming up as hard, hard, hard. And yet when I talk with Equifax, they're saying, well, no, it isn't. And my argument with them is, because I cannot say that these people didn't have a right to look at the file, they did.
They did,
But
yeah.
it's how Equifax has reported it, that's the issue.
Yeah.
And I can dispute it, but what am I going to say? No, they didn't have a right to look at it, they did. And so the conversation keeps going back, but they still have it there as yes, 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 and I'm not sure how to rectify that.
Okay, so same kind of similar. Chanel, you want to touch on it?
Yeah, so what's happening is you are going to end up in a little bit of like a cyclical trend, because essentially everyone is like well within their rights of doing what they're doing, and that like this comes to terms as to why BBPA's community space is so important. Financial like acumen, jargon, context, industry use of products, it's very complicated. So yes, it is one hard inquiry, and that's why you'll get like the prefix of the broker, but it's also still hard inquiry. So we have to remember that there's no, if something is checking your credit to be able to give you a line of credit, it's a hard pull. Like, just think of it that way. It does get taken into consideration and calculation of your credit score that it's under one broker umbrella. So it's like it's partly considered, but it's still a hard inquiry because you're still attempting to take out credit. So this is kind of just like a financial like knowledge type of tip. We just have to be aware of that is possible. Now, it's not going to have adverse effects on your credit per se, which is why you're getting that response from Equifax. However, when a creditor goes to look at your credit report, that person is now in a position of what do I want to look for? So now it's not only about your credit score, they're allowed to look at your credit report and be like, oh, wow, you have this many hard inquiries. So they can choose to consider, okay, I could look at this and tell she went to a broker and they just checked her against a bunch of creditors, or they could just look at it as like, wow, this is just a lot of checks, and I'm going to tell you that that's why I'm declining you. It's very tricky, but Equifax probably isn't going to rectify that, because when you do consent to a broker inquiring from lenders to lend to you, you're consenting to that kind of dynamic. And then on your end, when you're going to lenders now for other products, they also have the choice to say, yeah, I get how this works, but I don't like how it looks. And that's kind of where you're in like a in-between phase where it's like you might, and then your only plus is time. You might have to just wait for those inquiries to fall off.
Yeah, I'll add to that as well too, to be honest with you, because this is what I would do. Again, I'm making sure that my credit bureau report is as accurate as possible. So if they're verbally telling you it's a soft check and it's showing up as a hard check, go through the process again. Keep going until they rectify that and everything is changed and it is accurate. Because it does take time and it does require following up. It does, like it can become very tedious, but long term it will help you, because as you mentioned before, like your other credit lines now that have access to your information and your data are pulling your credit, and they're noticing these hard checks, and then you said one of them reduced your limit. That's not fair, right? So again, it's going through the dispute process. I'm glad we're talking about this, right? It's contacting the bureaus, not only on the phone. The calls should be recorded anyways. If they're saying it's a soft check and they're telling you the information, but on your report, on your end, what you're able to see, it's still hard, that needs to be rectified. And I wouldn't stop until that's rectified, and I would provide details regarding it as well too, a descriptive letter or through the dispute process as well too, and then allowing them time to investigate even further. So if they did investigate it before and they didn't do anything, do it again. That's
Yes,
my response. That's what I personally would do.
I understand, and I am continuing with it. I have 2 case numbers going at it, because
Good.
while Equifax is acknowledging that it's one hard inquiry from the broker and the rest of them is just views, and that's why there's BRK before all of the rest of them. And my argument is that then if it is not technically a hard pull from all of these ones, then in no way should the lines be saying yes for a hard pull. And that needs to be changed. I says, I have no problem if you leave all of these lenders there, but it should be a no, not a yes. And while you may, Equifax, for instance, like while Equifax yourself is saying that you may not calculate it into the score, you do need to remove that yes from before it, because for anyone else looking at it, it is saying that it is a hard. So that is something I've stated. I've written it out. I've sent that to them. It still is a case that's ongoing, but it is quite tedious to know that you're talking with them and they themselves seems to be having a problem rectifying it.
Yeah. Rose, I would encourage you to document everything as you are doing right now. It's very important, and continue going through the process. Like it will get rectified. It may take months, but I've seen it happen before where they make the changes, and the BRK, what it's sounding right now, it just sounds like it's broker pulled. And on their end, and anybody in, especially when it comes to the mortgage side, they'll know that it's because, again, there's somebody that was shopping around or submitted to multiple different lenders, and that's why it showed. But again, it should rectify on your report as no soft pull instead of a hard one. So I'm going to encourage you, keep going through the process. If you don't fight for yourself, nobody will. So document everything and continue going through the process, and I'm sure they'll rectify it for you. I'm interested as well too, Rose. Like, do you see any of this on TransUnion? Because again, they're two independent. So I was wondering if you're still having that problem on TransUnion, or is
No,
it just
and that's the interesting part. It is not on TransUnion. Not even one of them is on TransUnion.
Exactly. Yeah, I figured. So again, it's just with the Equifax and them rectifying that change on their report for you.
Yeah.
But thanks
So
for
I'm still
sharing. I
working at
appreciate
it.
that.
I haven't let go of it.
Yeah,
I'm still
keep
working
going.
at it because I just think it's unreal for you to tell me it's not, but you're reporting it one way.
Exactly. Keep going. It will get rectified. It's been
All right,
less than a
thank you.
year. Sometimes it takes 6 months. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've seen it, but once it's done, not only will you be happy, but anything going forward will be a lot easier. So do what you can to continue going through the process, and then continue educating yourself along the way as you're learning. Start to read, because again, you then that knowledge that you have now, I'm pretty sure that you won't get taken advantage of in any situation like this going forward, right? So
For
keep
sure.
going through the process. I'm going to definitely encourage you and document everything.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for sharing. I appreciate it, Rose. Was there any other comments, Chanel?
Yeah, we've got, you've got, we're probably gonna, So what about, and guys, don't forget, you know, me and Shaq are always here, even when the space is over. Reach out to our handles personally too, and like, don't be scared to ask a lot of these questions, because seeing a lot of the questions I'm seeing right now, Shaq, are like, these are great questions, and I'm happy that everyone's opening up. So Karen Johnson said, what about implied consent? She specifically said Bell, but I'll say companies in general have a way of doing that if you inquire about products.
There's been class actions, there's been lawsuits about this type of stuff when it comes to implied consent as well. Be very careful what you say from what you agree on, especially if it's being recorded. Like this call is being recorded, right? Your phone calls from these credit lines, Bell, Rogers, you know, not to point out any of these big companies, but they literally have money aside for issues like this that they're dealing with. But it's very, like, just be very careful. I'll be mindful to tell you guys, be very careful of what you accept. Be careful of what you say on the phone. But yes, if it's just an inquiry, they shouldn't be pulling your credit for certain things, right? So I would love for you to, who's that? Karen did that comment, right?
Karen,
I would love for you to you know, maybe share the experience as well too. I think you mentioned Bell and the product. I would love to hear some feedback regarding, but yes, you got to be careful of what you say on the phone, and they're going to try to sell you something. So, you know, be very mindful of what you say, because they'll try to claim it as implied consent when it's, you know, sometimes it's not.
Number one thing, especially if you have, oh no, sorry, Karen, I'll finish this and then you go ahead. Especially if you have like a home phone or you use these services, Bell, Rogers, these big providers, when they call you, as soon as, this is like number one hack, never forget this. And they say to you, hey, you're eligible for some really great offers. Do you want us to check? Do you want an upgrade? Do you want any of that? No, thank you. Can you email me this information so I can look over it myself? Anytime anyone asks you, do you want us to check your eligibility? Do you want us to see if you qualify for? No, please send me the information via email and I'll look over it. Don't even hit a maybe, because that's that implied consent. But Karen, go ahead.
Yes, good. Oh, it's morning. Good morning, everybody. I think you hit the nail on the head. When my husband and I came to Canada initially, I think we didn't quite know much about the credit system, and we did make some inquiries. And then all of a sudden, I saw all these checks from Bell on my credit report. Eventually, when I, got a little bit smarter. And when I called them, their comment was that it's part and parcel of the process, but it wasn't expressly explained to me that, hey, if you're gonna inquire about this service or subscribe to this service, we are gonna do a credit check. That was not told to us upfront, so you could have made that decision. And like I advised my husband, I don't care who you are, I don't care what offer you're giving me. Please email me. I'm not making any decisions over the phone. I don't care how good the offer is. He has no way of, they're always like, even when you go to Costco and those places, there's always offers coming up, people calling and offering. So you really have to be careful about those. I think we got hit when we just came here initially based on a few of those. So I've learned as I go along the way. So just wanted to put that out there. And the mortgage thing. So one thing I found out when I was doing my mortgage is that there are going to be several because I went through a mortgage agent and not directly through the bank, there were several inquiries. But I was told that if those happen like within a period, like I don't remember if it was 30 days or something like that, then they all are reflected as or count as one. So I don't know if it, and I do believe I had a situation where it happened outside of the 30 days. So I ended up having like it counting as two. So that's also something to be mindful of.
Yeah, and I think it's a build on everyone's response, right? Including what Shaq said when he Rose's situation is these are difficult situations that we often have to be fighting, especially as minorities or whatever situations we're in, women of color, men too, but it's difficult battles to keep having to go through. However, the difficulty is with what Shaq said, the credit bureaus still have a way of keeping every single piece of information. So TransUnion might say, okay, we're just going to generalize this. And the consumer likes TransUnion because they leave less, but the lender likes Equifax because they'll have every single detail. And they kind of trick you, or they use like financial jargon to confuse you. But I would want to clarify, if you're looking for a mortgage or for a vehicle or like any of these bigger expenses, the inquiries are hard inquiries. Even if, yes, in that 30-day period, it will go through as one or will clearly look like a broker pull, or it could just have been one check. It's typically a hard inquiry. It's very unlikely that, yes, it might be under one umbrella and then it's subsequent and it's being clarified that it's broker and it's one. But it's very unlikely that if you're going for a large amount of credit, like a mortgage or an expensive vehicle, that the inquiry is not hard. So we want to kind of keep that in mind too, to be able to be careful. Yeah.
I think you hit a lot of the points I was gonna talk about anyways. It's you're gonna get a hard pull, one, when you're doing a car mortgage loan. But I think, again, every situation is different. And just like how we're different as individuals. Everybody has their own fingerprint. Everybody's credit report it's different, right? So there's times, and this is why we're talking about this stuff, why it's important to check your credit bureau and understand what's going on there, because there's times where it should show up as one, where it should, and it doesn't, and it should show up as a soft check, and it shows up as a hard check. All right. But typically, when you go to these agencies and they pull it from multiple different lenders, it should show up as a soft pull, and it should show up as only one. You shouldn't be able to see all the lenders that got submitted to it if it's in a 30-day window. But there's times where there's errors and discrepancies on the report. Go through the process, dispute report as well too. I'm going to drop a link to Consumer Canada because this is a call. BBPA is across Canada, so I don't want to drop any provincial information. I'll give you the federal information where you guys can see valuable resources, tips, but it's about knowing your rights as a consumer, right? Because trust me, the banks, they have teams, legal teams, and these institutions, these creditors, if you don't know, you'll get taken advantage of. So it's knowing your rights, it's knowing the difference between a hard pull and a soft pull. It's understanding your reports as well too, and then more importantly, going through the dispute process. I personally have gone through the dispute process on both Equifax and TransUnion, so I know that experience for myself, and I've done it for other clients as well in the past. So it's tedious. It becomes a job, but if you can document and you go through the process, you can get that stuff rectified. And to add to your initial point, Karen, it's asking them to send you an email. Be very careful what you say on these recorded calls, because they will take it as implied consent.
Exactly. Yeah. You got to give them a direct no, thank you. Send me an email or send me some information to review. But next up, we've got Denise. Isn't the credit system set up in a way that other lenders should not be able to see soft pulls anyway?
No, they can see everything.
No, yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, and this goes back, like there's no protection from the credit system. It's kind of, we want to like the credit system isn't something that's only built to protect us as consumers. So we have to remember, like, for example, let's say some of us are like in private lending and stuff. We also rely on the credit system to protect us as like lenders as well. So, and then the businesses are going to rely on the credit system to protect them as well. So it's less of like a system that's only for us and more of something that kind of just hangs in the middle and tries its best to serve as the greatest good. So like, we're not going to have things that are just going to disappear to just protect our credit best, because they also have a responsibility to disclose certain information to the people lending the money. So hopefully that makes sense. Shaq, do you want to build on that?
And I can touch on that as well too. There is regulatory bodies that it is protected for the consumer as well, and vice versa for the institutions as well. So again, that link I just dropped as well, you guys can learn a little bit more. I'm not going to go into detail, but all the resources, take some time, really go on those links, read about it. This is all public information, in place to help you out, and to educate yourself. So, yeah.
We're literally almost out of time. We've got three. We're gonna try. Like, do you want to just go quick through these questions?
Yeah, we can go through the question, just because, to be honest with you, everything ties in. And the topic I was talking about was, tips of successful disputes, and we're talking about the process of disputing, looking through your records, the process of following up, being patient, persistent. But again, I think everybody's seeing the value of why it's important to manage your credit, monitor it, pull your reports, see what's on it, and then going through the dispute process as well too. And for me, like, before I go through the last questions, I'll wrap up with this last point, and then we'll finish up with questions. Is the long-term benefits, right? It's doing this now that's going to help you long-term, not only to understand and going through the process, but understand it's going to, help your credit, so that way you can get the cheaper interest rates, right? If your credit score is at the 800 plus because you went through the process of maybe somebody doing too many hard pulls on their credit reports and inquiries. Inquiries are probably the smallest portion on, I think it's like 10% weightage of what affects your credit score. It's the smallest portion, one of the smallest portions, but obviously too many inquiries is going to affect your credit score. But it's going to allow you to understand or obtain lower interest rates on loans, it's going to improve your credit score by taking the time to go through the dispute process. And more importantly, it's going to enhance your financial stability by knowing where you stand, knowing how to improve your credit inquiries, your disputes, understanding credit fraud as well to identity theft. Very, very important long term. Essentially, will help you save on interest, get you maximum amount of loans, and then of course get prime lending. But yeah, those are my last points of the long-term benefits of effectively having credit management. But yeah, let's take the couple questions, any comments, and we can wrap up and I can give you guys the quick takeaways.
And then Danielle, just interrupt us anytime so we can know how we are for time. Okay, so next we have, how do we know which reporting agent vendors use, and are we allowed to ask the reporting agent?
Great question. See if you can do a quick Google and see if you can find that information publicly. From my experience, I do know that most lenders do use Equifax. I believe Scotiabank and CIBC out of the top 5 banks are the only two that use TransUnion entirely. RBC uses TransUnion and Equifax, so you never know which one they're going to use when they're pulling a report or when they're reporting. Yeah, so see if you can do a quick Google and see if you can find that information. Some of the institutions will tell you itself because they'll provide an application on their, or they'll provide the credit report for you on their online banking, and you'll see exactly powered by TransUnion, powered by Equifax. So you'll be seeing it directly. So just pay attention to their applications and services, and you'll be able to see them. And then if not, if they don't see any of their products, you can just do a quick Google. You should be able to find that. Google is definitely my friend. Anytime I need to know something, that and ChatGPT, those are the day and age that we're in right now. So
yeah, and then next we have some comments. I'm really glad I joined today. This is my first time hearing you. You all are gems. This information is great and great dialogue. Awesome. Okay, so our next question. In summary, if I use a broker for a mortgage, then it should be a BRK and considered a soft pull versus a hard pull.
So it should be 1 hard pull, at maximum 2, and that's it. Everything else, where if you do see all the other inquiries from other lenders that it's been submitted to, it should show up as a soft pull, to answer your question.
And read the fine print or get a lawyer, because people's like reporting classes and stuff like that are very different for different institutions. And yeah, that's my response. Go through your paperwork, ask questions if you want to know, because nothing is black and white. Like, not every single time you go to get something, there's no black and white rule. Like, oh, okay, if I go to apply for a mortgage, it should look like this. Like, every single institution reports differently, and it's really important to find out those unique traits depending on who you're borrowing from.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned before, the jargon on there, you may not understand it.
Yeah.
To be quite frank, some stuff I read too, I don't understand it, and I give it to a lawyer, right? And they can explain it because they're written in legal terms. And
Yeah.
Again, sometimes they're even fine. They're very even small and very light text. But take some time sometimes, just to review and understand it. Review with a lawyer, ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask for help if you don't understand something of how it works. And I'm pretty sure there's somebody there that's willing to give you the time, the energy to go over it with you and to provide some clarity.
Yeah, and what else do we have? I noticed that when credit increases are offered due to credit worthiness, I don't notice an inquiry from the lender. Is this correct? And I had answered that yes. So there's no inquiry if you are offered credit. Juliet said, how does AI impact the reporting process?
See, that I don't know as of yet, but I'm pretty sure AI is going to find its way in every industry possible. But I would love to learn that myself, Juliet, to be honest with you. Yeah, I'm not too sure. And I'm not afraid to let you know that I don't know how AI is affecting or how the reporting process is going to be working. You know, I only know the traditional way, but yeah, I would love to learn myself, to be honest with you. So let me just wrap up because I see we're at time right now. So again,
Yeah.
the takeaways, make sure you guys are following BBPA on social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, I think. But all the social medias that BBPA has, we're doing this for the community. And definitely share the link out. We're back again next week. There will be a short survey. I know Chanel mentioned this as well too at the end, so please fill that out. But the 5 key takeaways, and you will see this on social media, that's usually be posted sometime during the week. But we talked about techniques of maintaining healthy credit profile. Maintaining your healthy credit profile involves strategies like paying your bills, managing your credit utilization, practicing responsible credit card usage, and building and preserving good credit. Number 2 is regular monitoring your credit is essential. Regularly monitor your credit score is crucial for detecting inaccuracy, identifying potential issues, understanding your credit worthiness. And number 3 is knowing your sources by being aware of where you can obtain your credit report from Borrow, the TransUnion, Equifax directly, Credit Karma, and having credit monitor services either through them or a free service that they can monitor and send you notifications on a month-to-month basis or weekly. You can decide, or you can be daily like Chanel. You can decide through these credit monitoring services. Addressing your errors. When you find errors, please, please, please. Number 4 is to address them, discover your errors in your report, and promptly review your credit report by providing documentation, going through the initial dispute process, and submitting it directly with your credit bureaus. And number 5, the benefits of doing everything we mentioned above is effective credit management can lead to lower interest rates and loans, improve credit access, and enhance your long-term financial stability, making it a valuable long-term financial strategy for yourself. Thank you guys so much. Hopefully you guys got some value, and I can't wait to share next week, same time, same place, same link.